Welcome. Welcome, everyone. I'm Angelo Robles. Today, from Boardroom to Backbone, mastering high-stake exits and infrastructure, primarily energy, behind AI. Our special guest today is Paul Burgon, managing partner of Exit Ventures. And a somewhat of a related question, how do you compare the long-term outcomes of selling to a strategic buyer versus a private equity firm?
So generally speaking, a strategic buyer will pay more than private equity. This is why people like to sell to a strategic, is because unless you can get an IPO at really hot part of the market in terms of the IPO market,
right,
a strategic sale is usually playing the odds, the most attractive risk-adjusted outcome. About 80%, 85% of exits are to strategics, and about 10 to 15% of exits are to through the IPO market. And so you're going to, generally speaking, you're going to get a much better deal to a corporate buyer than private equity. Private equity is a very financially driven, I want to get an extremely good return from my acquisition. And strategics are looking more at the synergies, and they have synergies, which means, 1 + 1 = 5. And so there's more of a pie. There's a bigger pie to share when you sell your business to a strategic that can create synergies with your business. And therefore they're willing to pay more in some cases than private equity, where there's not as generally, there can be some nice synergies with private equity, but they will never share any of them unless they're forced to through an auction. And so that selling to a strategic will almost always result in a better outcome due to the synergies, the bigger pie, and frankly, a little bit less of a shark approach.
Are there specific signals, indicators that a business is better positioned for a premium strategic sale versus more of a, let's call it a financial buyer exit?
One of the best and easiest ways is the fact that the strategics are coming and calling, right?
Of course.
It's a no-brainer. Like, if you've built a good, solid business in your industry, and it's above the 10, 15 million in revenue, some 50, 100, multi-$100 million in revenues, you will have people coming and calling, right? There will be a ton of private equity, and there always is, because there's more of them. But when strategics come calling, there's your sign, right? I love that. I love that saying. There's your sign. A little blue collar comedy tour for anybody who recognizes that. But that's just because we don't have a lot of time, Angelo. That's the best way to start to realize if you've got multiple strategics coming to you, then you've got something that could potentially be sold to them for a nice premium.